How you going, Charles?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good fella. You know what? I have some fantastic questions for you.
Okay, I look forward to it.
We've had many questions ahead of this event have been sent in for Charles to answer. So I'm just going to get going, okay? So the first one is an e-commerce related question.
Yeah.
How essential is a dedicated server and multi-site maps for crawling and indexing large e-commerce website? Large site with 20,000 plus URLs.
Right, so I don't actually use dedicated servers at all, really, for my projects. We just use cloud hosting, and you just scale up the cloud hosting as the site grows, essentially. So it doesn't really matter if it's 20,000 URLs or 200,000 URLs in terms of the size of the site. Most cloud hosting providers will allow you to have like 100 gigabytes, 200 gigabytes of storage, and most sites that are 20,000, even 200,000 URLs won't get anywhere near the 100 gigabytes and stuff in terms of size. So we just generally stick to cloud hosting for all of them. You don't really need a dedicated IP address, like I said. Multiple site maps are slightly different. It depends if you want an image sitemap, a video sitemap. You should always have your core sitemaps as well. Video sitemaps and image sitemaps generally help increase your crawl rate considerably. So I normally go for both of them as well. But in general, like I said, you don't really need dedicated hosting or anything. Just stick to the cloud nowadays, especially. And it'll load faster than a dedicated server for international visitors that aren't on the same IP range as your server as well.
Just stick to the cloud.
Yep, stick to cloud.
Stick to the cloud. Okay, there you have it. All right, next question. I have a site with hundreds of product pages in a particular niche for about 6 years, and they're all working well. What do you think would happen if I add hundreds of products of a completely different niche on the same domain?
Okay, so you're adding, so it's an e-commerce site with multiple products already, but you're adding a load of new products that aren't the same niche. In general, with products, you're not actually going to be ranking the products themselves with e-commerce SEO 99% of the time, because people aren't searching the product name, they're searching for brand names, or they're searching for generic terms, like buy cars online or buy hats online, or things like that. So it's more about ranking the category pages than the product pages themselves. If you go and add 500, 1,000 new products onto the site, which are completely different from the current website, that means that you have all these new categories and things that you're going to need to rank. That essentially means that you're going to have to add new levels of topical authority, new links, new trust signals, all sorts of things for these categories to actually allow you to rank them in the first place. It's a lot of work, but again, the products themselves shouldn't be much of an issue in terms of actually ranking them. It's just the new categories and things and stuff like that. With these new categories, you're going to have to, like I said, build supporting content, build links, build all of these things so that Google now trusts you in this new niche because you've built all this focus around this old niche. So you're wanting them to trust this new niche. And the only way you do that is by building topical authority and link authority. It depends if you're in foreign or English as well. Generally, if you're in more foreign and international markets than English, you can get away with adding new categories and stuff because the competition is significantly weaker. So it allows you to add these categories and immediately rank rather than having to build all of that additional signals and things with Google.
Fantastic. What are your thoughts on effective link building methods, specifically for e-com sites? Are they different?
Yeah, so the majority of, not just e-com sites, but the majority of sites in general don't do base level foundational link building. I call it entity stacking. Your entity is your brand and your website, and all you're doing is stacking a consensus of information about that brand and that website on multiple sources that Google trusts. So some of the biggest websites in the world, people don't actually build links from, and they're totally free. Things like LinkedIn pages, a Crunchbase profile, PitchBook, your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube, all of these things that most people don't do the foundational level stuff, right? There's a very famous SEO called Will Reynolds. He calls it real company shit. Right? And I kind of agree with him. If you're starting an e-commerce website, if you're starting an affiliate website, whatever it is, you want Google to trust that website. And the only way you do that, because it's a new website, is by building links that Google already trusts from these websites. And you build a consensus on all of them. So the bio can be different, but it has to contain the same words and entities inside the bio. You want the same phone number, the same address, the same website URL. Everything needs to be the same across all of these different sources so that Google builds a consensus and will end up trusting that website. That's the kind of base level thing that everybody seemingly forgets to do, and they just go and start buying links and throwing the kitchen sink at it. Once you've got over that foundational and entity stacking level of link building, that's when you're going to be doing your actual juice links and link building that will build your traffic and trust signals and things on top of it. Those kind of things, especially for e-com, are generally best if you can build supporting content that you can link to. And a lot of it is to do with analysis. So a lot of people immediately just start building links at their e-commerce category pages without actually looking at their competitors and SERPs, right? I do a lot of UK e-commerce SEO. And in the UK, a lot of category pages, especially for the niches that I'm in, which is home furniture, it's that the category level pages don't actually have any links to them at all, right? If you go and look at buy sofas in the UK, most of the front page, if it's not the home page, obviously, most of those category level pages don't have any links going to them at all. So that means that you don't want to be building links to those sites because all the pages that are ranking don't have links directly to the category pages. So you want to build supporting content and then link to them through the supporting content. That also allows you to open a lot more doors because if you have supporting content that isn't or if you want to build links from a website that aren't necessarily an exact match in niche relevancy, then what you can do is go and build a piece of supporting content that kind of overlaps the two websites' niches together. So if you have a website like I do on home furniture, for example, then you trying to get a link from a news organization or something like that, and they're doing a summary of something that's not necessarily exactly to do with home furniture. It might be to do with interior design, or it might be to do with healthcare or anything like that. You can make a piece of content that is crossing the two niches over, and then link to that piece of content from the website, and it's somewhat relevant, and then you put all the internal links through to your category pages from that piece of supporting content back to your e-commerce category pages. And essentially that allows you to get a lot of links that aren't necessarily directly niche relevant as well.
Come on.
Yeah.
How much value, so moving on to backlinks, right? How much value, so this is a very specific question, right? How much value would you give to a link that comes from a totally different geographical location and is in a different language? So different geo, different language. What's the value difference of that link compared with?
Yeah, so in English, if you get links from foreign websites, they're not nearly as powerful as if you get English links to international websites, right? So the algorithm in English is just substantially stronger than it is in basically every other language because you have things like NLP, machine learning, all sorts of like data training and things like that Google do, that they just don't have the capabilities and they don't really want to spend the money and processing power and things like that in these international markets because it's not going to see the same ROI as if they'd spent that on their ads technology or something like along those lines. So in general, you just want to be careful with the number of links that you're getting from international markets, right? If you have a website that's already doing really well, it has like 1,000 referring domains, and you go and build 3 links from like Brazil to your English website, they can still have an effect. They're still going to be somewhat good. It just depends, again, on the domain, on the trust signals the domain has, all of these different things. But I've used a lot of international publications to essentially rank my affiliate websites because they're so much cheaper than the English publications, right? I can get like DR80s, DR90s in Asia and in South America for 1/3 or even 1/10 of the price that you're going to be paying for the same level site in English that you'd be paying for. So I generally think that geo TLDs are stronger linking to non-English websites and weaker linking to English websites. But it's all about the quality of the link itself and things, right? You can still, like I said, if you can get a DR90 linking to your English site and it's got 1 million visitors a month, it's still a good link, right? It doesn't matter what language it's in.
Absolutely. All right, good question here. Different angle. For a site that's just starting out, 6 months or less, what would you look for in a link building service?
In a link building service?
Service.
Okay.
Service.
So the majority of link building services, when you get on the phone with them or when you speak to them on email, will be giving you a sales guy, right? But if you're an SEO and you're speaking to a non-SEO, then they're going to be selling you the highest profit links possible, right? They're not going to sell you the best quality links. They're going to sell you whatever is the highest margin so that they get the most possible commission. I don't want to speak to sales guys, right? I want to speak to their head of link building. I want to speak to their former customers. I want to see case studies of their links having success. I want to see examples from that service's links in my niche. They should be able to show you all of these things, and the majority of sales guys won't be able to show you those stuff and won't have the ability or knowledge to be able to show you that stuff. So I just ask them to give me, like I said, case studies, give me examples of links in my niche, give me example clients if they possibly can that they used to work with, all sorts of things, right? Just as much information as you can get from these services will allow you to actually understand how good they are in terms of their ability to build links for your niche and for your website.
Okay. If you think that your site has been hit in some way, how do you check to see if backlinks was the cause of it?
So I use link research tools. It's a really good tool by Christoph Semper. It gives you a link toxicity score, which allows you to kind of put in all of your backlinks and see how toxic those links are. Again, it's automated, so it's not going to be an exact science, but it will give you 90% of the bad links that are going to be at your website, right? And that allows you to essentially just remove all of those links via potentially disavow, though I don't really use disavow, or contact the website owner and remove them that way, which is generally the best way to just flat remove the links. But in general, it's just about auditing your link profile, first of all, with link research tools, and then auditing it with a manual overview of the links that it didn't kind of flag in the same time as well. Again, it's a very manual process with looking at link building and toxic links and what hit your site and things as well.
Okay. What are your thoughts on PBNs and any potential negative signals? So, for example, are too many homepage backlinks a negative signal from PBNs?
Yes, but PBNs have actually gotten stronger this year, right? So a lot of people have kind of written off PBNs as they are, old school SEO tactics. They don't work, etc., etc., etc. They do, and all of my foreign international websites, because I do a lot of foreign finance niches, so I rank in like Norway, Sweden, Dubai, Qatar, Kuwait, all of these different countries with a really high GDP per capita and a different language, and primarily using Google. I rank with them majority with PBNs, right? We just get localized domains, we build out the site. It doesn't even have to be a relevant domain because, again, it's international SEO and the NLP doesn't really work in those markets. And it allows you to essentially just destroy other competitors that don't have anywhere near the same level of link juice. If you have 100 links out of 150 of your links being, or 150 of your RD being homepage links, that is going to be a risk, right? You don't want to be using majority PBNs. You just want to be using them as the majority of the link juice to the website because they're so cost effective. I generally think that PBNs are going to have somewhat of a renaissance in this year and potentially the next year, especially with AI content. So because Google can't detect AI content, because they can't detect which website is using AI content, essentially link authority is now going like this. This is why Parasite SEO is working amazingly. This is why PBNs are working amazingly. This is why if you get really large DR80, DR90, like I said, links to your website, those work really well right now. In general, link authority is just going up and up and up, and the detection levels of the old kind of algorithms aren't being processed like they used to be. So I really have been using PBNs recently at a higher rate, but in general, I only use it for international markets. I'll use them for tier 2s on English websites, but I don't like linking PBNs directly to my money sites and money pages. I do link them to Parasite pages because, again, with Parasite SEO, if you have a massive website that you're building these pages on, those huge websites that have 10 million visitors and a DR85 and things like that, they can get away with a lot higher levels of link toxicity than your small little niche site can, right? So you can go and build all these PBNs that actually might drop your site's rankings directly at these huge money sites and at your large links as well, and they will increase those rankings for those pages. But they would actually be a negative effect on a smaller website, right? Because, again, large websites can get away with higher levels of link toxicity.
Fantastic. Is there anyone have any questions? Just put your hand up, the mic person will go over, and after I've asked this question, we'll ask you a question, okay? So if anyone's got any questions, put your hand up for the mic person. All right, I've got a question here about specific anchor text ratio, right? So, like, do you have any anchor text ratio that you specifically go for all the time? For example, 5% exact match, certain percentage branded, things like that.
No.
Okay.
I don't really care about anchor text ratios. I just try to not offset it too high, right? In general, we use a lot of branded anchor text, a lot of things like that. Your on-page should be able to rank you for the keywords. Your links should just be the fuel that allows you to rank for them, right? It should be your on-page that is optimized for your keywords and the intent and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your links don't need to be exact match. They don't need to be partial match even. They can just be branded anchor text that are going to pass enough juice to allow your on-page to do the heavy lifting and actually rank the website for its given keywords. You just need that link authority to be able to rank it in the first place.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for alternatives to Harrow in the UK?
In the UK?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the UK there is one. I think it's called Intelligent Access or something like that. They own multiple levels of PR services, but there isn't an exact Harrow alternative in the UK, unfortunately. There's one in Australia called SourceBottle. And then there's one in the UK called Response Source, but it's not really a Harrow alternative. It's just more of like a PR listings website. I use Roxhill Media, which is, again, a massive PR network, which allows you to search by keywords of journalists' contact information on the content that they publish. So let's say you wanted to get casino links from journalists or things like that. You can type in casino, and you can see all the recent posts from a database of about 100,000, 120,000 journalists, get their contact information, and then send them the information about your potential posts or your PR links and things like that. But Roxhill is probably the best PR-level platform in the world right now.
Roxhill.
Yeah, Roxhill. Roxhill.
Fantastic. Was there any questions from the audience? Just want to, at the back there, yeah? Mike person's like, go. Okay, they're on it.
Yes. Hi, just one question. Like last year, I think there's an increase in like spam links that automatically get created from bot websites and that kind of stuff. Do you spend any time on it, or do you believe that Google knows it is automated spam and it will not punish you for it on the long term?
So Google, a lot of the time, so a couple of years ago, if you had a negative link, it would be toxic, right? It would be a negative impact, negative signal on your website. The majority of negative links now are just neutralized. So Google effectively makes them not send any signal at all. They're just a neutral signal. It's actually quite difficult to get truly toxic links these days. The majority of the time, those toxic links are going to be coming from sites that have been hit by penalties, hacked sites, malware sites, all of these kind of things, right? But in general, they're just going to neutralize the links. So I don't, if it's bot created, spam created, all of the, those like domain lists, things like that, I just leave them as is and let Google kind of clean up the work for me.
Nice one.
Thanks.
Yeah. I've got a question here. Do you think EAT matters a lot in affiliate marketing?
So it does. EAT matters a lot in affiliate marketing. It's just that most people have got EAT wrong, right? Gary Illis, who is one of the head Google engineers, I was at a conference when he was on stage giving a presentation, and I've spoken to him directly and quite a few times. And he basically said that EAT is 90% link-based, right? So this is Google itself and Google's own engineers telling you what I've been saying for the last 10 years, right? That EAT is generally 90%, 95% link-based. And that's because Google doesn't trust your website, right? Why would it trust some tiny little small blog? Why would it trust some brand new site, fresh domain, all of these kind of things? It needs to look at other websites that it already trusts, things like I said, like Crunchbase, even large publications like Forbes, New York Times, BBC, et cetera, et cetera. It needs to look at those websites linking to you to be able to trust your website in the first place.
Do you have another question from the audience? Come on, down the front. Nice one. Microphone. Come on. There you go.
So Charles, how many times the main keyword should be repeated in the article in 2023? Like if I want to rank for SEMrush review, so how many times you will repeat this keyword in the article, like according to you?
Yeah, so it's just based on analysis, right? So I look at the top 3, top 5 competitors in the SERP, and then I'll try and match whatever kind of intent levels they have. Generally, I use writers that aren't SEO trained, right? My editors are SEO trained, and they're the ones that are running it through like MarketMuse or Surfer or something like that, and doing additional entity analysis, additional entity additions, all of that kind of thing, re-optimizing H2s, re-optimizing H3s, image, alt text, all that kind of stuff, right? There's a big difference between how many keyword variations on your page versus in your code, right? So a lot of people over-optimize their page level by stuffing their keyword into their images. And now the image alt text, the image file name, the image caption, everything, 4 different variations per image have got your keyword in the source code, right? But on the actual website itself, it doesn't have anywhere near that number of keywords. In general, I try to minimize how many keywords and entities and stuff we're using, and we just try to use as many different variations as possible, but it's purely to do with the intent that Google kind of wants in the SERP.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're out of time. How good was that? Loads of knowledge there. Come on, Charles, what a champion.
I appreciate it. Thank you.